Welcome back. This module and lesson will be on the idea that sales is a numbers game. I've heard that many times. You hear it in movies, you hear it in sales seminars, you hear it in sales environments, that basically what it's saying is that you got to make a lot of calls in order to close a deal. I don't necessarily say that's untrue. I think how many calls can be determined by some very advanced tools that we'll do in some other lessons and things like that. But just to kind of keep this simple, I don't know how useful telling somebody that's either new, medium, advanced, seasoned, veteran salespeople that you got to make a lot of calls in order to make a sale. Not very useful, other than to tell people that's what you got to do. So what I like to do is kind of break it down to the micro, because that's more like the bigger picture. And when I say micro, like look at the individual call, and I like to create myself a checklist during and after a call, and actually you can do it at the end of a day too, and I'll give you some examples. So I may not close a deal, and I know a lot of salespeople, especially where I work, if somebody doesn't close a deal, there's this, I can hear from across the room, I hear this like they just big letdown instead of just staying consistent with the mind. But it's like, well, they want to close, and then they have to pick themselves back up for the next call. Not very useful or effective mindset wise, or when you get on the next call with somebody and you just let yourself down. It's not the potential client that's letting you down, you're letting yourself down when you say, oh, they didn't close. So what I like to do is this. I like to carry energy from one call to the next, whether it closes or not. When you close, you start gaining momentum. You can start closing multiple in a row because it's the energy that you bring from one call to the other. And in a call where you don't close, if you let it get you down and you carry that into the next call, it might take you down even further if it doesn't, and so on and so forth. It's like a domino effect if you're not paying attention. Now, what you can do, other than looking at, because a lot of people have a tendency to judge the call, the success of the call based on if they close it or not and get a sale. You can do that, but you want to create some other metrics as well to gain momentum, because you do have to make a lot of calls. Let's just be honest. Sales is a numbers game. You do need to make calls, and sometimes you got to make a lot of calls. I think today I worked a 10-hour day. I must have dialed 250 times. No big deal. I'm used to doing it. It's pretty typical. But in my calls, what I like to do is check in with certain things like, how did I leave especially if it didn't close, it's how did I leave the customer? Did I leave them with the fact that they know that they can trust me? Was I helpful? Did I engage with them, which means that I play a tennis match with them with questions, that I have them engaged, that I pull out the information I need to do with the proper questions? Did I qualify them? Were all their needs satisfied, other than just check in with the budget and like negotiate and things like that? You can check in with, were you helpful? Did I address all their concerns? How do I feel at the end of the call? And you can take that energy, and if you do this checklist, you're like, you know what? That may be a sale on the next call, or the next call after that. I got to keep with these people, because you have to do that in sales, which is follow up. 80% of your sales come from 20% of your follow up, which is a tremendous. It's like the 80-20 rule. And in order to gain momentum into sales as a numbers game, you got to make a lot of calls. You have to bring it down to the individual call and find out what you can look for to gain momentum, to take it into the next call, then to take it into the next call after that. So there are these things I like to look for, and it's the energy, it's how did the conversation go? Because I don't judge my call only on the fact that whether I close it or not, it's how did I treat the call? Because if you feel good after the call, even if it didn't close, you take that feeling good energy into the next call, into the next call, into the next call. And law of attraction is about how you feel. So if you're feeling good, you have a lot more opportunity and better chance to attract your ideal customer, which we'll talk about how to author in your ideal customer in just a little bit. It's more of an advanced thing, but this is a more real-time way of checking in with, am I doing a good job, and am I supporting myself to be successful in reaching the goals, and also doing I got to duck call a lot of calls in order to make sales. Way more effective than just looking at something closes or not. Let me give you an example. So the other day I had 5 sales and 3 people that declined. Their credit card didn't have any money. Now I can't control whether their card has money or not. What I can control is whether they say yes or not. So I had 5 sales and 3 declines, which means I had 8 yeses. 8 yeses in my mind, math-wise, is way more effective than 5 closes. And I got 5 closes. So really I've got like 13 things I can look at that really went well with the day. And of course you can always look in, what can I do better, what can I add in, what didn't work, all that good stuff. But that is way more effective for me, those 2 types of measurements, both the individual call and then the day itself, to see, was I a success? What can I take away from it? What can I pat myself on the back about and take into either the next call or the next day?